But yeah, you guys want to just introduce yourselves and kind of give your background, what got you into the fire service, what you were doing before, so on and so forth.
Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
All right, Craig. Yeah, Ryan Stubbs. Been on the department be 9 years in October, so it's like whatever, 8.5 years so far. Been loving it. Grew up racing motocross and that stuff, and always was around kind of like injuries with friends and just people I raced with, and seeing the fire department. A lot of times they'll have an ambulance there, and so just kind of seeing how they work and that, it'd be like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then my parents were always like, yo, you'd be good at firefighting. I just never thought about it. I didn't have any friends or family that were in the fire service, but just thought, well, that could be cool. But then right out of high school, I got caught up in like, oh, I want to make a ton of money. I don't know what, but so I guess I'll fucking go to college, and then wasted a couple years there. Really only attended like 1.5, and then just kind of was just not happy with where I'm going, and kind of had a little aha moment at college where it was just like, all right, I should just do what I initially wanted to do and not worry about money. So then just started kind of testing. Well, went to an EMT class, and then from there just trying to learn it, like what to do next, and Googling, and it's like, oh, it looks like you have to have certs. So went to an academy to get the fire certs, and then just started testing everywhere, and ended up at where we're at. And so that's kind of really about it. I've really enjoyed it. It's an awesome job. There's downsides definitely that I wasn't expecting, the lack of sleep and stuff, but other than that, it's an awesome job.
Where did you go to MT school at?
It was, what was it? They don't do it anymore. I don't believe. It was a husband and wife, and he was at Salt Lake City, and it was at the Firefighter Credit Union, just like at night in one of their like conference rooms or whatever.
Was it the Middleman's?
No, his name is it Bednair, I think was his. Might be I think I heard someone say he was like a chief now, or BC, or I don't know, but yeah, they were really cool, really nice. His wife was a volunteer and like sheriffs and did some other things as well, and she was really helpful, and they at least kind of got me started.
Pretend it's my dick.
Kind of got started, at least telling me like, okay, do this step next and this step and stuff. So
Nice.
Thanks, Ryan.
okay, Craig.
I'm over here talking shit, and I don't even know how to use a microphone, so.
Yours you can pull into your face, so.
I've got one of these at home, but it's not a microphone. Yeah, Craig Shepard. I kind of fell into the whole fire scene. It was never anything that I planned on doing. I was just going to school. I was trying to get bachelor's in marketing. I don't know. I just wasn't really what I wanted. I just felt like that's what you did after high school. Really wanted to join the military. Family said that, they kind of talked me out of it, and that's a little bit of a regret of mine. Thank you, Stubbs. But yeah, so going to school, trying to get bachelor's in marketing, and quickly learned that school was not my thing. I think it was like I got my associates, and I was like a little bit more in, taking some math classes, and for me at least, it was a pretty advanced math class, and it was like the second day of the semester, and I'm like, man, what the fuck am I doing? And I just stood up probably first 10 minutes of class, and I'm like, fuck this, and I walked out. I had recently heard about the fire academy, and walk out of class, call the fire academy, sign up, and then kind of went from there. I'm a little bit different than probably most. I went to paramedic school before I got hired, solely for the reason that I heard it helped you get a job. At the time, firefighting was so competitive, like so competitive. So I was just trying to increase my odds, go to paramedic school, with actually no interest in the medicine side of it whatsoever initially. But after paramedic school and being on the job for a few years, that actually became kind of my passion. There's no doubt I still love firefighting, all that kind of stuff, but that's few and far between. And so I kind of geeked out on the medical side of it for quite a while. Really enjoyed it. Got into it, just thinking I couldn't do the traditional 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, bullshit grind. Believe it or not, back in the day, I was pretty active, pretty outgoing, big into fitness, stuff like that. And I'm like, man, I can get a job where I can go work out. Fuck yeah. Like, that's what I want to do. Little did I know after 17 years, it would actually do the opposite for me. Eat donuts all day and sit around. But, yeah, that was a surprise. But yeah, got three kids, wife, great life, great kids, great puppies. So.
And you just hit your 17-year mark, right?
Yeah, about a month ago.
Nice.
Now I can't wait to get out.
Yeah. Don't blame me. I mean, but you've also set yourself up for that. Like you're monetarily speaking and family life.
Yeah. I guess the side road I'm taking is real estate, something that even, 20 years ago, before firefighting, I was always interested in, and I just never knew enough about. I always had a misconception that, you had to be rich to invest in real estate, etc. And then after the burnout, probably year 10 at the fire department, I was like, man, I need to be out at 20, and I need to figure out what I want to do, because, the first 10 years I was really loving it. I was loving the job. I was loving the medical side of it. And kind of my roadmap then was, I'm going to do 20. My plan was still 20 years, but I wanted to transition into like flight medicine, nursing, PA, something along those lines. And probably about the 14-year mark, is when I decided I could have nothing to do with, again, the 9 to 5 job, but more importantly, just the medical aspect of it. I still love it, but I'm over it. I just want to do my own thing on my own. So then investing in real estate.
Yeah, go ahead and lower that. Bring it closer to you if you can.
There we go.
That's awesome. I mean, you got what, 4 properties now?
Yeah, 4. I've got a vacation rental, soon to be 2 vacation rentals, 2 long-term rentals. I've got a piece of land in Lava that
That's right.
I don't know if it'll ever come about, but it's 13 acres, so it's a good size. It's heavily treed, next to no traffic up there. Like, I'll go up there and for a whole summer and not see anybody except Jed. But it would be it's such a great location. So many people go up to Lava that I want to make it like a little mini campground or something like that. There's a website similar to Airbnb or Vrbo. It's called Hip Camp. You guys heard about it?
Yeah, I've heard that one.
Yeah. And they've actually reached out to us a couple times about the Lava property and even the cabin in Island Park. But one of the things that are their requirements are like bathroom facilities and stuff. And we don't have water, we don't have electricity or anything like that. So, but I'm hoping I can transition that property into an Airbnb, build a cabin there, or at the very least, a couple camp spots.
I thought that was the site that you can do as a camp spot. It's basically you're just reserving a camp spot via Airbnb in a way. I didn't know you had to have facilities as well.
Yeah, it's been a few years since I've looked into it. But I'm pretty sure some sort of bathroom facility was kind of the breaker for us.
Damn. Yeah,
I don't think it has to be necessarily like running water bathroom, but maybe like a composting area or something like that.
Gotcha.
But right now we don't have septic or anything up there.
Gotcha. Yeah, that'd be cool. I know people were buying property up in Joshua Tree
Oh,
and doing the same thing. They were just renting it out as a campsite. Be sweet.
yeah, that place is sweet.
Yeah.
That's one of the top spots in the U.S. right now for that type of stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I hate it out there, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of the desert, especially that one. That's sweet, man. So you've been doing this for 17 years. How long have you been a captain? I mean, it's got to be like 5 years now, yeah?
No, because I think at the 14-year mark. So throughout my career, I'd taken every test, every single class I could from like day one. Like I was one of the first guys in my group to get like hazmat and stuff like that. But every test along the way, I would take the first test, I'd promote, and continue to work towards my next goal until captain came along. It was never one of my ambitions from the get-go. My plan was stop at engineer, and so it was the first test that I had passed up. I passed it up a minimum of twice, maybe three times. Just because I didn't have the desire, it just wasn't in my cards. Maybe not the best motivation. I feel like I did come to a point where I saw people promoting that. I don't know how to say this because it probably sound different than what I mean, but I could maybe not even necessarily do a better job. Some of it was just maybe the way that they treat some people. Not to say that it was in a bad way, but I like to see. I mean, we all have our own morals, ethics, motivations. I just like the kinder approach versus the do what I say approach. I guess for a really bad answer to that, but
No, I get that.
I just saw some people that I was like, man, I would really like to empower a crew in a different way. But ultimately, the motivation was, I want to be out at 20. I can't do this forever. I need to top out my pay. And so about that 14-year mark is when I decided that. And you need your top 3 years
Retirement.
And so the captain schedule's on a 3-year. So I figured 15 years, take me 3 years to get there, and then I'd get the 3 years by 20, and I could leave with the highest pay.
Nice. Yeah, that's good, especially if you're going to take a 50% pay cut at retirement.
Yeah.
Nice. So that means, I mean, you were a captain for a couple of years before this incident we're going to talk about. Huh?
I was actually looking at it before I came in. I can't believe it's been 2 years. It's just over 2 years.
Yeah.
But I think I was only a captain for, I can't even remember my promotion date, but I think less than a year, maybe a year.
'Cause was that our year one of that crew? Our current crew. This is year 3, right?
Yeah, it had to have been in the first year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that bid had just taken place like 2 months prior, or gone into effect 2 months prior.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
Have you been at 2s the whole time you've been a captain?
Yeah,
72B, right? That's the whole time?
yeah, 72B.
Yeah.
No, hopefully you can bid away at the end of the year.
Yeah, hit 75s to wind down the career.
Yeah. That's good. Finish out strong.
No, honestly, I'd love 5s.
Yeah. It's not a bad place to be. It's not bad. Good people.
Yeah.
Well, then, cool. I'll just get into it. I think it was like March of 2022 was that fire. I was actually working that day. I don't know if you guys remember me being there. I was on that fire, but not really. Because I just watched the whole thing go down from the front yard. But I was actually on a trade that day working at Fives, and the fire was in Fives' area. And we were out. We were actually at IMC when the fire came in, when it got dispatched, dropping a patient off. And we had Rosie with us too. So 3 of us on the ambo, and then the engine. I don't know if the engine came or not. I can't remember where the engine was at the time. And we were driving back, and it was already nighttime. It was already dark. And on the freeway, you could see the header out over off Redwood.
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember even in the dark of the night, you could see how big that fire was going already. And we went to the fire, naturally, straight from the hospital. But we were out. I believe Threes was out as well, right? So the next closest station was out. You guys, arguably, maybe the next closest station within our city limits.
Right.
But obviously there was other agency units that arrived first, specifically 2 other bordering cities and their departments, and then their battalion chief as well, right? Our battalion chief was nowhere near it.
Right.
So all around, I think, just listening to the dispatch audio the other day, it was, I think someone arrived there prior to 5 minutes. I can't remember, but I mean, it barely.
Yeah.
It was burning for a second.
I was trying to remember. I don't think we were initially dispatched even. We were either dispatched very shortly after the initial dispatch, or we jumped it, but I couldn't remember.
It might have been one of those weird.
Were you guys on the second alarm?
No, we were the first alarm.
You were?
But I almost felt like, have you ever had it where they page out like an alarm and then they'll page out like another unit or 2, like directly
Yeah.
after you?
Yeah.
Why wasn't I dispatched? And then you are right away.
That sounds familiar, but
So I remember the first in unit asked for a second alarm as they were arriving. I'm pretty sure
before arrival.
before arrival.
Yeah.
yeah, because the header.
Yeah.
I think we saw the header going across 41 and 215, which is still a little bit away from where the actual fire is, but you could see it at night, and you're like,
Right.
oh yeah, this is going.
Yeah.
And I do kind of remember, like, has no one arrived yet? Like, because we're the like, are we going to be first into this? And this is like way out of our area. But
It's crazy how your memory plays tricks on you. I keep remembering it as we arrived during daylight.
oh,
But it makes sense, the time and everything else. It had to have been dark, but I remember it just seems like it was daylight.
Yeah, I think it started and it was winter.
Yeah,
And I think it
March.
came in at like 8:10.
8:52 something.
I think it was like 8:15, maybe somewhere in there. But yeah, I even got here. I'll play the original dispatch too. We'll listen through. Hopefully, this plays well over the mic. I'll find the sweet spot.
That one in route. Detective 1 at 2026. Alright, 4-3 in route. At 2027. Check for engine 72 medic ambulance 42. Detective 1, battalion 13 units responding house fire 1450 west, 3300 south. Calls reporting an attached garage is on fire. The residence is a 2-story residence with a basement. Evac is in progress. We have someone trying to go into the garage. We have someone trying to go into the garage to get the dogs. I have no further. Just 72 out.
Yeah, so that's the original dispatch, and then a little bit into it. This is prior to arrival. Dispatch says that bystanders are saying that the house is fully involved, which I don't think it was by the sounds of it, right?
Inaccurate.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And then one of the battalion chiefs that was en route said he saw a pretty good header, and so he called for a second alarm before he even arrived. And then, in fact, I can go to his arrival report real quick.
capture smoke and flame show on Charlie's side. This will be West Valley Command. Command will be on the Alpha side. Paramedic ambulance 42, Robert 2. Lieutenant 13, I copy West Valley Command, two-story resident, smoke and flames on Charlie's side. Alpha side is command at 2031.
Yeah, so even then, like, sounds like a typical structure fire. Like in the early stages, you know, it doesn't sound like anything crazy out the gate.
So you were there.
Yeah.
Right? You were not, Shane. Did you ever see the house?
I did. I even took a note.
I drove and saw it like 2 days afterwards when I was on shift.
Right, when I was a pile of rubble.
Yeah.
So one of the things interesting about this house and the fully involved comment is from the header, man, that would have been our typical home in West Valley, like two of them because from the header, the size of the header. And so I can see where the fully involved part comes from it because this was not your typical home at all in our area or any of the surrounding areas. Typically we're like, 1,000, maybe 2,000 square feet. I don't remember what the actual square footage was, but it was upwards of 6,000 square feet. And I don't know if that included the massive attached garage on the Bravo side, which was actually the fire. The garage itself was the size of like 2 or 3 of your typical single family homes.
Oh, geez.
And so I believe that probably was fully involved at the time.
Yeah.
And it's pretty wild how long it stayed contained in that garage. I think the other point is that house, and I could be wrong, but I believe that I know it had been added on. I want to say it started out as one of those little basement houses, didn't it?
Oh yeah. Someone
Like
looked
just
into,
a basement.
Yeah, where you like walk down and it's just all, and then they've built onto that, like the whole house shape is kind of an L almost with the garage.
Well, it's actually a U. So if you're looking on the Alpha side, the Alpha side's the south side. If you're looking towards the house, towards the north, it's as if the Alpha side is the bottom. If you have like a square U with 90s, right? Mm-hmm. The Alpha side, and then going north, there's 2 legs off each end of the house to make it a U. The Bravo side was the garage, 2-story garage.
Right.
And then the rest was the residence.
And was the interior like a typical layout, or was it all funky as well?
It actually, we didn't make it through most of the interior. I mean, from the size of it, we made it through probably, I don't know, 15, 20% maybe.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's
maybe.
pretty open in the first
we were
little area, but
we were honestly only in there. I'll be interested to see if we can capture the time frame we're in there. But it was literally, I'm guessing 5 minutes. I mean, it feels like 5 minutes, maybe.
yeah. I remember when we looked at the time frame, when we did like an after action or whatever, it was like, oh wow, we were in there really not that long.
Right. Yeah, but not your typical house that any of us were expecting or have ever seen. I've never seen a house that size in West Valley.
And do we know what started the fire? I never did hear, but I know it was in the garage, but that's all I know.
I believe from what I had heard was they had a bunch of dogs, and I don't know if they're like breeders, but there was a dog that I think just had some pups, and so they had kind of a cage in there and a space heater. Mm-hmm. I think they may have determined it was the space heater or something like that.
It's always electrical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's like what the official, I think that was, shortly after or the day after. I don't know if that's the official thing, but
For sure.
and I don't know if you remember, we had been in that house probably a year before on a medical, but I wasn't like
I think we
100% sure.
delivered a baby, right, or something.
Someone had, yeah, they had, and then they called, but the midwife freaked out a little bit and called, I think, and then it ended up being fine. I don't think we ended up doing anything.
See, that's what I was trying to remember about the house, because later on, I'm sure we'll discuss this, but the whole time my focus was find the second floor. And I had spoke with the captain of 117s. We did a face-to-face, and I'm like, hey, man, have you made it to the second floor? And I never got it out of him because I hadn't searched the whole first floor, but in your typical layout or where you would expect to go upstairs, there was no stairs. But I felt like we'd been in that house and we were on the second floor.
So,
and even now, I don't know if there is or isn't a second floor, because those dormers up there, I think, are just attic space. So I still to this day don't know if there's a second floor in a portion of it or not. Or
I think in the garage there was a second floor, like a little loft area, but in the main house, I don't think there was. I think those, dormers were just decoration to make it look. Because I think even after it, I guess spoiler alert, once it fell, it didn't seem like it was just all like wood framing. It didn't seem like there was like, beds and house, whatever stuff. But
So if I remember right from listening to the dispatch, you guys arrived at like 12-ish minutes in. It was fairly long into it because you guys got dispatched somewhat late. What were the conditions like when you guys arrived? Like, had it extended to the house already?
Negative.
no,
Even once we went in, as far as I still know, it had not. We never saw fire in the house, right?
no.
So you guys made entry through the front door,
Right.
and there wasn't any smoke or flames in the actual house. It was still in the attached garage.
There was smoke initially when we went in. It was really thick, but then it kind of cleared out for a minute, and then I mean, I don't know. We're jumping around. There's some more other stuff that kind of
we could definitely paint the picture a little bit better. So this house has a detached garage, but it's near the house.
No, it's
attached.
attached.
So, and that's along the Bravo side, but as you kind of go back behind the house, right?
correct.
And so you get there, it's about 8:15 at night. The fire starts in the garage, but it's a big garage. It's not your
Massive.
typical residential. It's like a shop, like an attached shop. And so the fire begins, and we have 2 units that are on that side of town, 2 stations on that side of town, and they're both gone. So the next arriving units are our neighboring departments, and they get there. It's actually ladder 117. They're the first to arrive. Engine 43 arrives, and they say they're going to get a hydrant. I know there was confusion with the hydrant because the closest one they originally saw was 500 feet away. It turns out there was one in front of the house, but I think the BC truck was near it or something, like kind of half covering it. And then, so the ladder comes up, and then this is the really confusing part too, when you listen to the dispatch, is how many freaking hose lines are out or not out, or even what they pulled at the time, because they run out of water at some point, and
Very fast.
and I can even play that because you guys actually arrived just prior to the 10-minute notification, and the dispatch audio should actually be played because it's pretty interesting. Because I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on, and maybe you guys will be able to. Hopefully, this will refresh your memory.
That's 43, truck's out of water. Command, medical ladder 117. Over command. Power panel is on the Bravo Charlie 5, is compromised. Unable to locate gas lines and unable to complete a 360. Delta site is compromised with a span, chain link, company line is on our Delta side. what's compromised? The electrical panel on the Charlie Bravo corner is compromised by fire. Copy, electrical panel compromised.
Yeah, so right there, it's like there's some issues early on, I guess is easy to point out.
So, yeah, it was a tiller that showed up first, or at least from, I don't know if when they actually, which one showed up, but those were the initial lines that were pulled off. And the tiller only, I think theirs only holds like 300 gallons or something.
Right.
And they didn't drop in a dry line or anything. So they just went off tank water, and it was already involved enough that the tank water is not going to do shit. So they immediately ran out of water, and then it was like, hey, we need a water supply. So then it sat there forever, just growing and growing, and it felt like forever. The actual time was probably a lot shorter than it felt, but it was like,
It was too long.
it was too long. And we were kind of initially, I think our first assignment was to help 43 with water supply.
Right.
Once that was all kind of going down, but there was so much confusion, and I run up to the tiller and was like, hey, because at that point I knew there was a hydrant super close.
Right.
We've got guys running both directions with hoses, swapping them, and we're like, where are you going? We're going, down here. I asked the engineer, I'm like, hey, where's your supply line or your LDH? There's a hydrant right here. And he's like, oh, we don't have LDH. I'm like, what? Okay. Come to find out they do. They just don't like loading it because it's difficult. So that one thing that fucking pissed me off, that was like, you have it. It would have been so much easier. Now we're trying to pull stuff off other people's rigs, hook up and figure out, an engine where your intake is and all that stuff that we're not familiar with. But so that was kind of a big confusion and fiasco. But
Even just on the dispatch audio, I got when the truck one's dry, that's at 7 minutes and 16 seconds. And this is dispatch audio that's been compressed together, and getting rid of all the extra stuff. So it's not like it's run clean through. And then I got at 9:22, so a little over 2 minutes just on the compressed audio file of being without water. So most likely longer without water.
yeah, it's probably
Definitely longer. It's confusing to listen to the dispatch, but being there, that me and Stubbs were just throwing our arms up in there in the first 5 minutes there. We're like, what in the shit is going on? Because there's the orders that you hear on the radio, but also, and one of my biggest teaching and learning moments from this incident was, I think everything has to be broadcast over the radio. Even if you do a face-to-face or anything else, you need to let everybody else know what's happening. So, like, we get called up initially. Upon arrival, they just say, hey, come up, meet up with command on the alpha side. Command has us, hey, I want you guys to get a water supply, even though there's already a water supply being gotten. And so we're like, okay, and to where? And he's like, oh, ladder 117. And so turn around, and there's a dude running LDH west down the road past 117. And there's a dude running east right past him with LDH running right past, and no one knows where they're going with it. I don't know where the confusion came from or what made it so difficult. And I'm not trying to point any fingers, because every call, every incident, every one of us has something that we could do better.
We're not sitting here talking about
I'm
this
not,
to talk shit. We're just trying to learn from it.
It's just funny to me. And at the time, super frustrating, because then we're given that same task, and I'm like, well, what the hell are we going to do? There's already dudes running both ways down the road with LDH.
Yeah.
And so it was just a little bit frustrating.
Yeah. That'd be annoying. I mean, do you think that's, well, again, that's hard to, open that can of worms, but
Open it.
well,
You can edit.
I was more wondering, was a lack of command presence, or was it because there's just so many different agencies that no one really knew what the hell was going on?
I feel like it's so many different little tiny things
That just added
happened.
up.
Yeah.
And they say, you know, the first 5 minutes of an incident are the most critical, and they're going to set up the rest of the incident for you. And I'm not saying it was bad on command or bad on dudes flowing water or getting water. I think everybody, including us, had a part to play in that, where things just weren't lining up.
Gotcha.
For whatever reason, you know, like I mentioned before, you always have a hiccup here or there. Every single person on every incident probably does. But they were just kind of, I think they were adding up quicker than they typically do.
Yeah, it was like a little perfect storm.
And
Little ones.
I couldn't tell you why, but it just did.
I mean, yeah.
I don't think it was command. I don't think it was necessarily you could pinpoint one person or one tactic or anything like that.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I got, hang on, I'll just fast forward here. I got radio traffic of you getting your first assignment, which was also.
That's the first assignment over the air.
Right.
And so we actually got, sorry,
No.
messing your groove.
No, not at all.
Yeah, so initially I went up, got the task of water supply, like I mentioned, and we kind of like tried to take it and figure it out.
Well, and if I remember right, listening to the audio, you arrived and no one really said anything, and you were just kind of waiting for an assignment, and then
You asked for one, right?
yeah, you piped in again.
Well, I would have to hear the audio. I think initially when we did arrive, we did get that first response to come up to command. And that's when we were given the face-to-face job to go get the water supply.
Gotcha.
And then
When two other units were also doing it.
right.
Gotcha. Well, here, I'll play this next audio then. And I'll skip ahead a little bit as well.
Man, 72. Call 72. Hey, do you have an assignment for us? Are you up on the office? We haven't had an assignment yet. Guard for 2.5. Guard for 2.5. Be advised that 117 going in out the door. They'll be followed up with 72 as a backup line. Sir, copies. Team working exterior, Bravo Charlie corner. Copy that. Enter 117 Charlie from Alpha. 117, back engine 117 Alpha from Alpha. Go ahead. Can you give me a scan report? Alright, Pathfinder 117, I gotta shut your water down for a minute so we can hook into a hydro water.
And that's around like 15 minutes.
Any water?
So yeah, it gets confusing there too, because 117 has two. They have an engine and a ladder.
Right.
One of them was working on the Bravo Charlie corner at the garage, hitting the exterior. The other one's interior with you guys. I believe you were interior with engine 117.
So they had pulled up to also, they hadn't been hooked up to a line. So I think once we got that assignment, like, hey, we're going to go follow up 117s, they didn't have a water supply. And I'm like, they've already have one hose line in there charged. And I don't know, assuming fighting fire. And I'm like, we're going to pull an additional line, charge it, and also be. And so I told the engineer, I'm like, hey, dude, we were told to pull another line, but you don't have a water supply. Like,
Right. Well, and they told you your backup line originally, right?
yeah. And I think we had a discussion too. I was like, hey, dude, like, we don't have a water supply and this thing's rolling. And, like, if they're in there, and like, I'd hate to waste water just charging a line for the guys that are in there that could use it more or whatever. So then we ended up kind of waiting outside for a minute, I think, wasn't it? It felt like, wow, because I
think it was,
had time to go over and shut off the gas with.
if we can timestamp what time 17s just went in and then what time we actually go in, I think it's well over 10 minutes. And like Stubbs was saying, I was super impressed. He was heads up enough to recognize that they didn't have a water supply. At the time, I guess I assumed they had a water supply, but they went in interior without a water supply. I think mainly search. It was their function or their task mostly.
Probably,
because at the time I don't think we even suspected fire interior.
Yeah.
And so their task was search, I believe. So they went in and we were supposed to back them up. Stubbs mentioned that they didn't have a water supply, and we kind of powwowed for a minute thinking, well, what's the better of the two here? Do we go in, charge line, go in behind them as backup and drain that much more water from the tank? Or do we wait until we get a water supply and then go in? And ultimately we waited till the engine got the water supply, which was a crazy amount of time. And there was a hydrant right next to their engine.
Well, and there's one of the photos of the hydrant, and whoever had taken it, they left the two.
That's right.
They only used the main one and left the other two capped.
Oh.
And then started flowing water, so then you couldn't even hook up anything else if you needed to.
That's right. That's why there was such a delay getting it because that hydrant went to ladder 117, correct?
Yeah.
And then that hydrant was directly, 25 feet from engine 117, but they couldn't connect because it had already been plugged, but not all three ports, just the one port going to 117. And so then we would have had to shut that down.
That's why he said at one point, I need to shut you down because I need to set up a water supply.
I'm not sure if that's what they did, or I'm not sure what that was about.
That's what I was going to ask too, because I mean, to me, I'm like, where's the changeover?
Why do you need to shut down?
Yeah. For a water supply. I didn't get that. But so you're telling me the ladder and the engine were both pumping.
Yeah.
And they were both
Without water.
We're trying to run on the same water supply, but they weren't.
In theory, yeah, they would have been trying to run off the same water supply. But
Did they ultimately?
That's what I was trying to think, if ultimately they eventually shut the hydrant down and hooked up more, or if they found another hydrant. I don't know. I can't remember.
Not sure.
But yeah, it was, yeah. And like thinking too, like from the engine, yeah, it'll hold, I would assume theirs is probably 500 gallon or something, but 117s had been in there for a minute. And I'm like, if they're actively fighting fire too, and we don't have a water supply, maybe they didn't use any water and they still basically have a full tank just with a hose charge. But it was like, if they've been using it, like, I don't know how much they have left. And
well, and yeah. And I wrote that, I wrote that here. Why'd the water get shut down momentarily? And I even wrote down on my notes here, I had a question whether or not people were inside of a burning building without a water supply for a little minute. And I actually got about a minute and 40 seconds. I want to just play straight through because you can kind of hear, it sounds like the guys working inside, you can kind of hear them get a little anxious or like maybe they, like, not necessarily like, maybe anxious is the right word, but almost like they're not being heard or the demands aren't being met or what they need. I'll play that real quick.
Command from medic ladder 117 fire attack. over command. Second unit to support fire attack on the Bravo Charlie side. 117 stay again. Command from medic level 117. I need additional engine to find a fire attack on the Bravo Charlie side. Right. Medic level 117 Bravo. Pressure on the 2.5. West Valley Command from fire. Command, this is your fourth 5-minute notification. 20 minutes total. Reminder for bar. Copy. Still up there. Just stand by for bar. Command from Medic to 117. To 117. Go for command 117. Stand by. 117, do you have bar? Medic to 117 has bar. 3 interior, 1 of the full panel. Copy, be advised, we had a pump malfunction. We're working on that second line to come in and track you. Stay cautious. Copy. We completed a primary search of the main floor floor, the first floor and the basement, but not the upstairs. We are actively fighting fire inside the structure to the kitchen towards that attached garage. Copy. Primary search, main floor basement. Hold off for a second on going up the main floor until we got heavy smoke showing out that second floor. Wait till we get that backup line. Let you can permit it from down below. 43 to 117, need the backup line charged now.
So I mean, there's a clusterfuck of things going on there. Does any of that sound familiar?
Yeah, I think at that point the fire had started kind of pushing in towards the house. We never ended up making it that far, but by the kitchen and that stuff, I think just down that hall or whatever's the door to the garage.
Right.
I would assume. So I'm thinking at that point it kind of started pushing into the house a little bit. Because eventually once we did kind of get in there, there'd been some holes punched in the ceiling that we utilized and stuff. But so I think they had started seeing some fire and that, but there's still the confusion of the second story thing. And I think that definitely kind of added to it. I understand why, like just driving by, you'd be like, oh yeah, there's a second story up there. But I think it was only in the garage, and no one was actually, because the garage was just basically fully involved the whole time. So like no one was actively, in the garage or above it or anything like that. So it was just in the house, and then they were fighting the garage fire from, they got the doors open or it was open or whatever. But
And then it technically extended into that attic space of the actual main house.
Yeah.
I see. And then it just, at that point, it just ran away. And
Yeah. And it at that, when it started kind of running away is when we were, I mean, I guess we're kind of jumping ahead, but yeah, we were interior already, but we had honestly no idea that it was above us at all. Like, yeah, I don't know if we want to jump that.
Yeah,
There's
so-
some more things in between that, but
well, yeah, no, but what were you going to
I was going to say, so walk us through once you got your assignment to actually go in.
Yeah.
You guys were the backup line for 117, right?
Right. So at this time, we've already been given the assignment to back up. We advised them we were going to wait until we got a water supply. And so we were kind of just hanging out in the front, waiting. I think we got the gas shut off.
Yeah, it was like located in the window well up
Yeah.
front. It was and right against the window well, so it was one of those weird ones. It was like really hard. It was pissing me off. That was like
Yeah, it's one of those, like I said before, where they just add and add and add. So the gas meter was in the window well. If that gives you an idea of the house. But yeah, so at this time we've been given the assignment to back them up. We advised them, hey, we're not going in until we get a water supply to back them up. We were with Chief Peters at the time, just kind of evaluating it from outside. And I know I kept saying over and over, I'm like, man, because so we're on like the Alpha Bravo corner, and the dormer above us is just pushing smoke, heavy black smoke. And I'm like, man, like we need water on this up in the second floor now. And it just felt like it was just taking forever. And so I was pretty concerned outside about that. But we didn't ever see any flames or anything like that, just the heavy, thick black smoke coming out that dormer on the Alpha Bravo corner. And when we finally do go in to back them up, we initially go in and it's, how do I paint a picture of, it's not like, everything was atypical. I feel like we walked in and it was smoky, but it's smoke like in a training, if you've got the smoke machine, it's white smoke, just kind of like not moving, just white smoke.
remember
It's not hot whatsoever. Yeah. And if anything, I remember once we get into the kitchen, standing there thinking, man, like there's zero heat. If anything, I'm glad I'm wearing my turnouts to keep me warm, because there was no heat, no discomfort. So let me just back up. We go in the front door. We're going to go back up 117s. So we're kind of trying to find them. And this place is pretty wide open. And we're kind of bumping into stuff. The visibility at that time was low, but it was, like I said, it's just that white, puffy, cloudy smoke. Yeah. And so we're kind of trying to bump into stuff. We know 17s is in the kitchen, and so we're trying to make our way to the kitchen. And we're stumbling around, can't find the kitchen. And then I couldn't pinpoint the time when it happened. And honestly, like, you would think it is a big significant event, but not in my memory. I can't remember. But at some point, right then when we're trying to find 117s, it clears up, right? Like it was as clear as it is in this room right now. The conditions were no different than right here, right now, except I was wearing turnouts. Like it was cool, chill.
You could feel a breeze because they had multiple. The front door obviously was open, and then that back door by the kitchen was open. And it was. I'm kind of the same. I can't remember exactly like, whoa, it's clearing up. Just all of a sudden it was clear, and you're like, okay.
But you had 100% visibility. There was no distraction in your visibility whatsoever. And honestly, it was quiet for the most part. We were kind of just like chatting, and I was looking for the second story because I knew from looking at the dormers, I'm like, man, like our objective, we need to put that down. So we come up, I do a face-to-face with 117's captain, great dude. And he tells me that they'd just been working on hitting the garage. So we're facing the Bravo. We're pointing towards the Bravo side. And he's like, yeah, we're just kind of keeping it out of the house. And he's like, every once in a while, we'll pop out this door here in the kitchen and kind of hit the garage or whatever. Because, like I said, it's a U, so the kitchen is right here, and the U part kind of jots out, so you could step out on the deck and hit the garage to the side of you. I'd asked him if he had found the second floor. He said he can't find the second floor. He said they were low on air, so they were going to withdraw, and that's kind of the next little bit is probably a couple minutes. And we had, to this point, we'd only been in, and I'm not looking at a timestamp or anything, but my judgment would be what, 2-3
Yeah, it was
minutes?
smoky, kind of bumping around, found them, and then we're kind of in the kitchen. Yeah, it was fairly quick.
Yeah, and I think they were going out for low air, right?
I think
so.
so.
They had been in there for a while.
Yeah.
And they had done the search of the basement and the first floor.
Oh, I just remembered at that point there was a dog. Kind of, it might have been like right as we met up with them. Because like right before we were going in, all of a sudden a dog ran into the house. I was like, holy shit, did you see that? And
Good pupper.
I know, I was like, oh, buddy. And
Wrong
then
way.
found him like opposite end of the kitchen, just in their little half bath. And he was just sitting in the corner, and it was a big, beefy dude that maybe a pity mix, or I can't remember. It was big, and I was just like, oh, you could tell he was scared. And I'm like, oh, please don't bite me. Please don't bite me. And he just kind of grabbed him by, he didn't have a collar, and just grabbed him and just kind of, I'm like, I can't carry your ass out. Like, you're all fat. So I just kind of like walked him out and kind of gave him a tap to run out. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I just remember that part.
Yeah, but I think the important part to note there is it was so clear at that point and so comfortable that you just kind of walked the dog out.
Yeah, I was just kind of looking out and like, oh, cool.
At that point, I felt more comfortable, more secure than in any interior fire attack I'd ever been in, ever. You know, there's different levels of, oh, I don't feel good about this, or there was zero concern as far as outward signs for me at that time, other than knowing what I knew before I went in. But being in there, it was just like shooting the shit with the boys. Like it was comfortable. There was no reason to be alarmed when we were in there that we felt.
Yeah. Right. Well, and it's one of those hindsight now that I know now why, but at the time, because there was a hose line in the kitchen and that little hole that they had previously punched out, and saw some flame in there, and because that was kind of close to the garage, so it's like, okay, it's kind of getting up in there a little bit. So I start spraying in there, and usually once you do that, kind of either smoke will come down or you'll feel heat or a change, and like nothing was changing. And I was like, what the hell? I'm like, okay, like just dirt, and then so I'm like, maybe I need to get more under it. And of course the floor is like super slippery, so like every time I open it, I'm like, my feet are just like sliding back, like, and I'm like, holy. So just keep pumping water up in there, and there's like zero change. You can see the flames kind of blowing by, you know, and spraying water, but nothing. And I was like, what the heck? And then later found out that it was like, oh, the roof had collapsed. The shingles and everything, like there was a giant hole and it was venting out right there. So I was just spraying water straight from the kitchen all the way out the house, and it was just passing through the flames. But
well, they mentioned that in the dispatch. There's the exterior crew comes over the radio. Well, actually, I'll back up. Interior first, before they left you guys in charge because of the low air alarms. They come over the radio and they're asking for more water, and then they say that they need the exterior to stop spraying inside because if they're hitting them. And meanwhile, on the exterior, they're asking for more water. In fact, they even asked for someone to run up a 2.5.
Right.
So you guys are basically just spraying at each other. Just we have a crew interior and one exterior. Yeah. So now it's the fire is getting, but at that point the roof had collapsed.
well, not
Completely, but
not the ceiling or anything like that. Just it. I shouldn't say it collapsed. It had burned through in a section, so it was venting out. So I think I believe now that I was just spraying basically just straight out.
I think coming up in your dispatch, probably the next thing, me and the captain, 117s, we're having the face-to-face. Over the radio, we hear the traffic from exterior fire attack saying that the Bravo Charlie, something has collapsed.
yeah.
But that's all in the garage. And so still up until this point, we don't have any collapse. We don't have any fire other than what he's hitting through. Did you hit any in the hallway? So we're we're in the kitchen facing a hallway that has a man door to the garage.
Yeah, facing the to the Bravo.
But
corner.
there was never any interior, correct?
No, nothing with us. It was like one of those, just you kind of stand there and just try to find something to do, and then look in the hole that had been punched through already, and it was like, oh, okay, there's some fire in there.
Where was that hole though? Was it? It was
like,
down the hallway. Was it in the kitchen with us?
It was in the kitchen, because there was like the man door leading out, and then like the sink, and there was an island and stuff. So, but it was just right in between there, and so it just spraying up through there, not doing shit.
Well, so I got that dispatch audio here. I can play. It's just under a minute. For that exact thing you're talking about.
43 to command. Welcome, command. On the Bravo Charlie corner, we have heavy smoke, lots of fire damage. Second floor is dropping into the garage. We have an unstable Bravo Charlie corner. 439 copy, up second floor dropping, Charlie corner. Bravo Charlie corner, Bravo Charlie corner. We have heavy inspection into the primary residence. Bravo side, we have fencing through the second story roof. Copy, fencing through second floor, Bravo Charlie side.
So, but they're talking about the garage, not the house.
Correct.
Yeah. The Bravo Charlie is that portion that goes out past the main portion that we're in. And the captain that we were having the face-to-face with, we both stopped, listened to that, discussed it, and we're like, okay, so that's all in the garage, right? And we both came to the conclusion that, yeah, that's what they're talking about. And we're not seeing anything. So let's keep. So as far as we're concerned at this point, we're hoping to save the house. We're like, okay, just the garage is involved. So let's push it into the garage. You know?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, that makes way more sense. You don't get that from the radio traffic, and I didn't even realize that when I was there. But I think I arrived when it was already had the house involved. Because I arrived. I should even mention, I arrived. Let's see, just after that actually, or just before that recording I just played. Excuse me. I arrived, and they put us all in staging, and they had a whole first alarm worth of units in staging, and no one's coming up.
Yeah,
I mean, no one. So we walked up because I'm like, well, I'm not going to sit however far down the road that was. I mean, it was a ways away down the road, a couple hundred yards probably. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to stage a couple hundred yards away. If they need someone right away. So I packed up, got my shit on, and I'm just listening to the radio. And I walked down, and I'm standing in front of the house just watching the whole thing unfold. And it was at that point that I linked up with Jed, and it was the first time I've ever seen him kind of amped on a fire scene.
Were you on the Alpha or
Yeah,
the Charlie?
Alpha.
During that transmission?
Yes. Yep.
Because I thought he was in the Charlie.
So, yeah, at first he was safety officer, and then that's when they started breaking it up into divisions. So he moved to the Charlie side and became the Charlie division.
Okay.
Okay. BC, yeah. So, yeah, but it was a chaotic scene on the Alpha side alone. Not even towards the back of the house fighting fire, you know.
With what?
With command, everybody was kind of just, like I said, Jed was stressed out. Everybody was kind of stressed out, and everything was going kind of chaotic. And then everybody else, as far as incoming units, everybody was kind of confused and just standing there not really knowing what to do. I think a lot of units had finished some assignments and were just kind of standing around like, okay, now what? and no one was getting rotated through to go help exterior fire attack, and no one was getting rotated inside for other jobs or assignments, or even to tap people out for rehab, for that matter.
Right. Well, I mean, at least as far as we were concerned, we didn't need rehab.
Yeah.
I mean, we were just chilling.
Were you guys still trying to find the stairwell at this point after 117 left?
Yeah, you got to remember, like, this period of time, it was minutes.
It was,
like,
yes.
And so, yeah, we meet him. I kind of take a peek around in the kitchen looking for the stairs. And I want to say, like, I saw, like, a half set of stairs somewhere.
Well,
I was like, does that go to the second floor? And
because the kitchen was raised up,
right.
like a couple, a few stairs. And then I think our confusion too is like, are they counting this as the second floor? And we're like,
but yes, I was looking for the second floor. He was just kind of hitting the shit through the hole.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that was basically it. Yeah, we were just relaxed, honestly.
And then at what point made you guys make the decision to come out?
So,
and what?
Stubbs was kind of knelt down, hitting the fire. I was kind of looking around like, hey, how do we find the second floor? Engineer Wayne Riley was kind of just backing Stubbs up. And like I said, it's so clear. And honestly, it probably saved our life being that clear. Because over off to the side, I don't know, 20, 30 feet. What do you think?
I don't know. Because I never ended up seeing it.
Oh, you didn't see it? I saw a piece of the ceiling collapse off to the side of us. And so I tell Wayne, I'm like, hey bro, like, let's go. We got to get out. With that said, I still didn't feel amped up. I felt so comfortable that, like, all the conditions were so nice. I knew that was a sign, like, hey, let's get out right now. And so I told him, but at the same time, I didn't understand the gravity of what was about to happen. I was just like, yeah, let's grab our shit, let's get out. And so Ryan didn't hear me, and so Wayne's kind of hitting him in the back of the head, yelling at him, hey, we got to get out. Jed walks in the back door. Excuse me. Chief Peters walks in the back door, and he's like, hey, you guys got to get out. And you were already up, right, walking out?
Yeah, I think it was at that point. I had no idea because I didn't see the collapse. The only thing, Wayne was like, hey, we're heading out. Like, and so you think it's just like, okay, we're getting reassigned. So I'm grabbing the hose line and dragging it out. I was like, oh, I'll just leave it in the front, right by the front door. And he takes off, and I'm like, oh, fuck, okay, I guess I'll get it by myself. And so I'm like struggling with the hose, like grabbing it, walking out. And then at that point, what was the other? There was another crew that was
118s was
coming in.
They were in the house walking in to back us up, and I'm like, no, we're exiting the structure. And then, shit, dude, just like out of the movies. I don't know if you witnessed it or you were in the front yard.
Yep.
Man, like, people say the shit happens, and I'm like, bullshit. Dude, we walk out, and the whole thing collapses and bursts into flames like seconds after we step out the door.
Yeah, yeah. As soon as I walked out, there was like one other guy. I'm like, hey, we're heading out. He walked out, and I'm standing on the porch probably, I don't know, from what I remember, like 3 or 4 feet outside of the door. And then all of a sudden, just this wave of like a little bit of heat and wind, whoom, and a loud noise. And looking back, and I'm like, what the fuck was that? And then I do remember right before too, like looking out the front door because it was so clear. There was just so much water coming off. And at first I was pissed. I'm like, are those motherfuckers spraying water above us? Like, that's a lot of weight. And I'm like, I was pissed about that. But still didn't think like, oh, there's a collapse. I'm like, you're just adding a lot of weight of water that could, just have drywall or whatever drop on our heads. But yeah, it was definitely one of those like, what the fuck just happened? Like, is that, like you said, it's the movies where you're just, the timing is crazy.
So were you guys aware of all the confusion that was going on the Bravo Charlie corner right before that happened?
Yeah, we could hear it,
Yeah.
but again, I don't know if there was something that was said that I missed. I've listened to the audio. There's concerning information being broadcast. However, I was under the impression that, hey man, it's all in the garage.
That's completely separate section of the property.
Yeah, like garage.
Yeah.
We're not in the garage. We're adjacent to the garage. So,
I got that audio. I can play real quick as well. Let's see here. Yep.
Command, Charlie Division. Charlie, go. Command, Charlie Division. I just had 72 leave the building. We shouldn't have anybody inside, even through that front door. Copy. All units on scene. Evacuate the building. Evacuate the building. All units evacuate. Command from fire. Bad Charlie, we've had a roof collapse into the main home now. Command, copy. 72 is the last unit that was in. They came out a few minutes ago. No units are inside. Fire be advised, they had flashover and partial collapse. Fire copies, partial collapse at 2100 hours.
We had not left a few minutes before. It was like, but
Well, in fact, here's a little more.
All units be advised, we're in defensive attack. All units on the fire ground, we're in defensive operation. Fire from command, be advised, we've had second floor collapse. Fire copy, second floor collapse at 2101.
So I guess that's my question is, he says roof and then he says second floor. Like, was it? But it sounds like it happened all at once. At least from you guys coming out the first floor.
yeah, I'm trying to remember.
It was all at once.
Yeah, it was a lot of stuff fell. It wasn't just like, oh, some drywall fell and like the raft, like trusses and
the living room we had just exited was no more instantly.
Damn.
like I even had some photos that I took it once the scene had calmed down, like kind of peeked through the front door because I'm like, yeah, maybe it wasn't that close. Like maybe it wasn't that much stuff in there. And then you look in and I'm like, there's a truss. Like that's the exact path I walked, and there's a ton of stuff just straight down all over. You can't even see the floor. And you're like, damn.
It was close. About as close as you get with a fire. So
Yeah.
I'll put in the video. There's a ton of videos that I got in that file of, I mean, once it collapsed and you're looking at, there's a shot from the front of the house from like, if you're looking at the Alpha Delta, and the whole thing is like, it looks like, first of all, it looks like a single story home,
Yeah.
and the whole thing is going, I mean, raging flames,
Yeah.
lots of fire.
Yeah.
So after you guys made it out, what happened then? That's when they went defensive, opened up the deck guns, and that was kind of it, right?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, honestly, at that point, it was a lot of more things kind of start blurring together because you're just like, what in the hell is going on? We were, or at least I was already frustrated with how the whole fire is going in general. And then you're like, that just happened. You're like, maybe it wasn't that big of a deal. And you're like, okay, no, it was. Like, you're just like, what in the hell? And I think even the photographer got some photos of me. I think we were discussing, and it's like, you can see a wide range of emotion from like anger to like disbelief and shock, and then just like fed upness and all that stuff. But yeah, honestly, at that point, I think I was just kind of like, yeah, fuck it. Like, and we didn't really do anything else after that. I just walked away, just like, I'm not going to be any useful. Yeah. Like,
I remember walking up and talking to you guys, and I remember at first it was like, oh yeah, like, okay, the roof kind of collapsed in, and then like the more I talked to you, I was like, oh no, like this, like some shit went down and it was not good.
Yeah, Shep, what were your thoughts afterwards once you realized what had happened?
I don't even know. I was pissed.
Yeah.
My first thought was, self-reflection, like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What did I do? What did I miss? Why
Yeah.
the fuck did I let this happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just beat myself up.
I mean, but you seeing that as part of the ceiling collapse, like paying attention to what's around you, and then also Chief Jed Peters coming through and poking his head into that man door and saying, "Hey, unsafe, get out."
Right.
Like, it could have definitely been worse.
Right.
And I think even before you went in, right, I think you guys had the professionalism to be like, well, no, I'm not just going to go in. Like, someone gave us an order to go in, but we don't have a water supply for our line that we're supposed to be dragging through this house. Why am I going into it? And then on top of that, while you're waiting for a water supply, you're out there and you're looking at and you're reading the smoke and you're seeing like, okay, well, what's going on? Like, your brain, it sounds like your brain was working the whole time, as far as
Right.
Conscious of what's going on.
I think that's what, I don't know if I do it having this experience. I know I do it different. I don't know if I would have done it different any other time. Looking at that smoke in that situation, I was fucking concerned. But at the same time, with the size of the structure, with kind of what I was hearing from inside and stuff, I was like, man, if we can get up there and put a fucking stop to it on the second floor, it should be Gucci. But never made it to the second floor. Probably should have just taken that smoke for what it was instead of thinking, hey, let's go kick its ass, One of your notes was, are we too aggressive versus intelligent? And I don't feel like that was anybody trying to be a hero or aggressive. Like I said, man, like we were in there just
the condition.
shooting the we're shooting the shit like we're shooting the shit right now.
You honestly could have taken your SCBA off, probably.
Yeah,
inside.
you did not need it on.
I mean, besides all the cancer stuff, but you know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't be coughing and hacking. You just, a little whiff of smoke maybe.
I think the important thing to remember is it's always hazardous. Just don't get comfortable.
Yeah. Don't get tunnel vision or complacent.
Well, I'm glad I saw that collapse. I'm glad Chief Peters came in. Those are two people that I think gave a heads up. I think there were a lot of other outward signs on the exterior that probably should have, things were said, but nothing was directly like said as far as there shouldn't be anybody inside.
Right.
Because everybody only has their little portion of what they can see, And so me hearing Bravo Charlie collapsed, okay, well, that air quote doesn't affect me because that's separate from where we're operating. And as far as I know, there's no fire around us.
Well, and I think Matt has photos of, like, right while we were interior, because I think I remember seeing like the timestamp and stuff, and I was like, wait, we were interior at that point, and there was fire blown out the ceiling above us and out like one of the sides, and I was like, holy shit.
Are we recording still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my question is, when you guys were inside in the kitchen, where in relation to you was that dormer on the second story that you saw that heavy smoke coming out?
That was, so we're basically on the Charlie side. Mm-hmm. That was on the Alpha side.
Okay.
But keep in mind, it was a pretty large structure too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and even I couldn't remember, and I'm glad I wrote this down because my memory was failing me. But even then, I don't know if the deck gun was flowing prior to you guys exiting the building or not, and I honestly can't remember because 75 is where I was at. We came up and started using the deck gun onto the roof, and I just remember like watching this water just bank off the roof and just come flooding down the side of the house. And I was like, that's a lot of water doing a whole lot of nothing except adding a lot of weight to that roof.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know too, cause I obviously was a little hot after, and I think in the, the little powwow when we, all congratulate each other on doing such a stellar job of, losing a complete house. But that's a side point. But I was like, were you guys flowing fucking deck guns and water while we were in there? And what I was told was no, that was coming from the Charlie side. They were trying to spray, and then some of it was making it above. But I'm like, it was like a fucking waterfall coming off the front door.
So you guys ended up having like an official after action afterwards. Who was all there?
I believe is pretty much the ones that were directly involved. So both 117 units and probably 118s, and there might have been a South Salt Lake. Yeah, I can't remember too because I was really like your mind's still twirling and I was like, maybe I don't want to blow my top because maybe I have everything totally wrong and I don't want to look like a total idiot just coming off. So you're just like, I'm like, basically like thinking the old saying, like, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. So I'm like, okay, I'll just be quiet. Hindsight, yeah, I wish I was a little bit more vocal, but it kind of started like, well, guys, I mean, all things considered, I think we did a pretty damn good job. And I'm like sitting there looking at the house that's in fucking ruins. And I'm like, this was a pretty good job. Like, this was a shit show from the beginning.
Yeah.
So I was kind of frustrated with that. And then, yeah, I think at that point I was like, is when I kind of asked sternly or whatever, like, were you guys flowing fucking water on the roof while we were in there? And they're like, oh, like I had no idea anybody was in there. And I'm like, okay, like, your mind's wandering so much that you don't have all the facts, and you're like, okay, shit, yeah, maybe they didn't know we were in there. And then it's like, wait, you just sent in another crew to replace us like 30 seconds before the whole fucking thing collapsed. So it's like, you assume, like, and then, yeah, I kept going back and forth between, yeah, I don't want it to be like I'm bashing and it's going to come across I'm frustrated and mad. I have no ill feelings towards anybody. Like we said, it was a lot of little things going, and
right.
This portion is kind of based off command. And honestly, I don't think I probably could have done any better in that situation than him. So I'm not going to say, what he could have done, but I think he was equally in disbelief and probably frustrated with how it was going, I imagine, but kind of kept going back and forth between like, yeah, man, it was totally clear in there. I could see straight through to you guys, to then, yeah, I had no idea anyone was in there. I'm sorry. Like, and so you're like, well, pick a lane, what is it? Like, and just kind of own it. But the after action basically ended kind of with that, like, well, yeah, just everyone slaps each other's ass and be like, oh, good job. And it's like, hold on, like if we're going to really have these, this is a perfect one to be like, where did we fuck up?
Yeah.
As we're looking at a house.
Let's be honest. If we actually want to improve things for the future, like we need to be honest with each other about what didn't go well.
Yeah.
What could have gone better.
Yeah.
And to your point, like to play devil's advocate, it sounds like, because I was confused just listening to the dispatch traffic of, hey, we have a partial collapse on the Bravo Charlie corner. To me, that means the house. That's not talking about the garage. Yeah. And even then, is that the Bravo Charlie of the garage, which wasn't the issue? That's not where the fire was getting into the house, So there's a lot of confusion and possibly just straight up miscommunication over the radio. And maybe that's why he thought at that point, maybe nobody's inside anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's
especially because you had the unit that was in there before you come out and then you guys were left there. I mean, I don't know, but
no. And I totally get that. Like knowing exactly where everyone is at all points, if you're in command like that, it's going to be difficult, especially on a house, like we said, this size, because all the other units that were there, their areas have houses the similar sizes as ours in West Valley, so very small. Yeah. So they're a little bit easier. You can kind of see the whole scene, but with this one, it's so big and everything, like it's going to be hard to know exactly where, and you're juggling tons of different things. So I'm not mad in that sense of like,
for sure.
And like we were saying, like it was totally clear in there, like we're just chilling, but we had no idea that fire was blowing out and fully involved above us. But there was like no heat, not like it was bizarre. But and we'd even talked after, because there was a exit door or the like right by us where Jed had come in and was like, hey, come out. And we're so used to just going in the way we came. And so we're like, oh, okay, like going out that way. And it's like, we could have easily have just gone immediately outside the structure. We're like basically standing at the threshold, but we went the other way. But also on hindsight, like it was good we went that way, because that other crew that we met that was walking in, they definitely would have been in there during that collapse if we hadn't kind of bumped into them like, I know we're heading out. And so I guess those are kind of two lessons in the sense of like we get so ingrained in just the habits of like, oh, that's the way we came in, so that's the way we come out. And it's like, well, if you need to get out of the structure, just find your nearest exit.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, Shane, you got anything?
I don't.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming, guys. Even just hearing your guys' story, even though I was there, I learned, and re-listening to the dispatch audio 2 years later, like clearly I didn't know everything that was happening at the time either. So I think it's good to point out and learn from, and thanks for sharing. And
yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I like it. It was a really good learning moment, and thankfully, nothing happened, not even a scratch.
Right.
But it could have been worse. And then just looking back at all the things that I made mistakes on and little stuff, and it's like, oh, okay, I can, like spraying water up there, and if there's no change, don't just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. It's like, think outside the box or think of something different. But no, yeah, glad to be able to come out and talk about it.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep.